Hey Bella, can you please get me a cup of coffee? And hey John, I really want it done by 5. You must be thinking, who am I imitating? Guess what? I have a new manager at work. And this guy, he's not the CEO, but he acts like he's really superior to others. So, he's very, what's that word? I mean, he feels like he's really superior to others. There's a word for it, for his behavior. In this lesson, you're going to learn with me, Michelle, what are the words that you can use to describe the behavior of other people or maybe feelings that you feel. So please join me. Let's start with the words. Have some very interesting words on the board. Let's look at the first word, vindictive. Who is a vindictive person? Let's look at the way we pronounce this word, vindictive. So what do you think when you think of the word win? Winner, a person who always tries to be a winner or a person who always tries to take revenge. Yes, vindictive is a person who's always filled with the feelings of revenge, and if someone hurts them, I'm sure you're not getting out of it. You will face the brunt for it. So a person who follows eye for an eye or tit for tat is a person who is vindictive. Somebody who follows eye for an eye. So I have this friend at work, his name is Harry, and this guy, he tells me all the time that he's not vindictive, but I tell him that he's really vindictive because recently our boss, it was a slave driver, he was fired. And this guy, Harry, was so happy. So he had that feeling of revenge against the boss because the boss was really harsh on him. Actually harsh on everyone, but yeah. So he was, my friend Harry is a very vindictive guy. And how can you remember this word? My tip is think of the word win. A person who always tries to win is a vindictive person. With that, let's look at the next word that we have. Supercilious. So remember how I started this video? Someone who thinks of himself as really superior to others, even if they are not. That person is called a supercilious person. Please remember, we stress this word over sil. We do not call it supercilious, we call it supercilious. Yes. So supercilious, all right, so again, I'll give you another example from my workplace. All of us, all the colleagues, we decided to go for, a picnic. And we have this new guy at work. His name is James. And we went for the picnic, and we were in the garden, a very beautiful garden. And we all decided to sit down on the lovely grass. But when we sat down, this guy, he kept standing there. He did not sit. And we were like, what happened? He said, I cannot sit on the ground. And we were like, okay, this is one supercilious guy at work. So this is how you can use this word for anybody that you know who thinks he or she is very superior to others. But how do you remember this word? So super, sil. What can you think from the word sil? From the letter sil. You can say someone who thinks they're very superior and they're very super silly for thinking that. So super silly is one way of remembering it. Supercilious. A person who thinks they are superior to others. So it's very super silly of us to be supercilious. The third word that we have, stupefied. Of course, this word reminds you of another word, which we use very frequently, and that word is stupid. So this somewhere comes from the same word. Stupefied is when you feel very stupid and you cannot understand what's going on around you. Sometimes that can be a surprise, which means it could be a very good experience or something amazing happened in front of you and you're astonished and you're so happy that you feel stupefied. You're like, what happened? Wow. But you can also use it in a negative way when you're shocked at seeing something, when you did not expect that something will happen, but it happened. So let me share the story of Mari with you. So Mari just finished her high school and it was her graduation day, and her parents were at the high school. They were attending the ceremony, and as soon as she finished the ceremony, she walked out of the hall and she saw an amazing car there which was gifted by her parents. So she was so excited to see the car and she asked her parents, can I just drive it right now? Can I go for a ride with my friends? And her parents, they were quite skeptical, but they said it's okay, because she was so excited. So when she saw the car, she was stupefied with happiness. But what happened next? When she was driving, she lost control of the speed and the car went spinning. And the moment the car stopped, Mari was stupefied. This means she was shocked. So when she saw the car first, she was stupefied out of happiness. But when the car stopped spinning, she was stupefied out of shock. So this is used when someone is shocked or surprised. Right, so my tip for you to remember this word is, of course, thinking of the word stupid. When you feel stupid out of joy or shock, that's when you can use the word stupefied. So let's look at the next word on the board. What is it? Can you try pronouncing it? Did you call it manic? I'm sorry, you're wrong. It's not called manic, it's called manic. Yes, the way you pronounce the word man, that's how you pronounce this word. Manic and not manic. So who is a manic person? A manic person is somebody who is filled with lots of energy, who is very lively, just like me, yeah, maybe. So a person who is filled with a lot of energy, that person is called manic. So on your best friend's big day, that means on her wedding, how would you feel? Of course, you'd be so filled with energy, you would go around doing all the work and you'd be manic that day. So filled with energy or lively. So what happens is when you feel manic, you act panicked. That means you're physically so active that you're just not calm. So manic person acts panicked. Someone who acts panicked. So this is the trick. That's how you can remember the meaning of the word and also the pronunciation. So someone who acts panicked is a manic person. And you'd not call it manic, but just like panic, manic also rhymes with panic. So that's how you can use these words that we have learned about describing somebody's behavior. For describing behavior. Wow, so we are halfway through, and let's change the color of the pen from purple to orange. And let's look at the next few words that we have on the board. So these words are not used to describe behavior, but rather they're used to describe feelings. Yes, how you have felt in the past or how you're feeling at the moment. So the first word on the board, I believe some of you may have heard it and you may be pronouncing it as nostalgia, but it's not pronounced like that. You call it nostalgia. So what do we mean by nostalgia? Nostalgia means when you think of the amazing past that you had, maybe yourself or with somebody, and you think of the pleasant memories, that's when you feel nostalgia. Thinking of the or maybe missing the pleasant past. Very recently, one of my school friends, Carly, she called me about, I think, after 5 years, and it was so good to hear her voice, and I was full of nostalgia because I was thinking of the school days we had together. The next word that we have on the board is, so you don't call it nostalgia, you call it talgia, but you can think of the word tale, which means stories, to remember this word. So the next word we have is vicarious. I really like this word, and this is also a feeling word. You feel vicarious when you experience something not by doing it, but by hearing it, reading it, or listening about it. So I have some food allergies. Yes, I know that's very sad. There are certain things that I cannot eat. So what do I do when I cannot eat? How do I, feel the pleasure of that food? So particular food items. So when my friends eat something amazing, maybe like a pizza, and I can't eat it, so they tell me how great it was with some amazing words, it was delicious, and I feel vicarious. I mean, vicariously I taste the food. I do not taste it by my own mouth, but I taste it by listening to their stories. So when you experience by hearing, so whenever I have an achievement or whenever I achieve something, my dad feels vicariously happy or vicariously proud because he did not achieve it himself, but through me he has experienced the joy and the pride. The next word that we have on the board, yeah, I know that sounds a bit bizarre. It's ennui, ennui. What do we call it? We call it ennui. Yes, that's the word. We pronounce it as ennui. Have you heard of the word envy? Yes, there's a difference. You pronounce envy as this, which is a very different word. It's also a feeling word. It means to feel jealous. But ennui, it has a very different meaning from envy. So make sure you pronounce them correctly. So ennui is when you feel really bored because you have nothing to do. And I know many of you feel ennui, and that's why you're watching my lesson, but I hope I've been able to dissipate all the ennui that you feel. So ennui is the feeling of being bored. If your current job is full of ennui, you might want to start a different career. The last word that we have on the board is cynical. Someone who is very cynical. Who is that person who is cynical? So think of the word sin, okay? Sin. That means someone who does something wrong. So a cynical person also does something wrong. But what is it? So a cynical person is a very selfish person. They only think of personal interests. So a selfish person. When you feel cynical about someone, you feel that they only care about their own personal interests. As for me, I feel very cynical about politicians because I think they care for only their interests. If you feel that somebody you know cares only for their own interests, that person is very cynical for you, or you feel very cynical about that person. So with this, we come to an end of the words that you can use for different feelings. Please feel free to use all these words for the people around you, for the way they behave, and for how you feel about them. And come back for more lessons with me. This is Michelle signing off.